And we're live. Welcome to the Lakers Late Night Podcast. I am Anthony Irwin. I am joined in-house. He is actually here, Harrison Fagan.
Yeah.
We're probably going to fight in a little bit. We should have actually planned this podcast for when you're not here so we don't actually fight. But we'll see how it goes.
Well, your house was closer to me than Temecula, so.
Go ahead and talk for a second. I'm terrible at my job, and I should have planned and plugged up the headphones. Talk about the game.
So, yeah, the game definitely happened, and the Lakers were surprisingly close, I thought. Even without Kawhi, I still thought that the Lakers were going to get blown out because the Spurs are just a lot better, more than just Kawhi, better than the Lakers. But they played them close the whole game, and then the Spurs took advantage in the fourth quarter. It looked like they were having whoever Lou Williams was guarding just cut to the rim a lot, and it was almost like there was some coaching going on there on one side, and then the other side maybe not so much because Lou Williams got left into close. I mean, he played a pretty efficient game offensively, but
what is coaching? What is this thing you speak of? This coaching thing what's it like to? All right, any Spurs fans watching or any Spurs fans on Twitter or whatever, please at me and tell me what it's like to root for a team that has an actual coach. That would be fun.
How quickly you forget the wisdom of the Zen master.
I do think you make a really good point about Lou, and you turned around. You were watching the. Do you need to put water on your computer?
No, I just put water on my computer.
or do you need to soak up the
water? No, I think I'm good. Looks like it's just on the outside.
Hey, Vox, if you're watching right now, we might need to get him a new computer.
Yeah, this is a work injury. I'm filing on this.
So, you mentioned Lou during the game, and then you brought him up in passing a second ago, in that it felt like anybody who Lou was guarding was just flashing to the basket because they know when Lou is guarding the weak side, he just isn't paying attention at all. And in the actual game, it doesn't matter to me. That whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, it's if Byron is going to point out every single time one of the young guys misses some kind of matchup or misses some kind of read or screws up defensively. And then you have a team so obviously going at somebody like Lou Williams, it makes zero sense to not play the kids late in the game when they're going against the veteran who you think plays better defense, but he doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, if he thinks Lou Williams plays better defense, that's almost a bigger issue than I think he thinks Lou Williams has more veteranness. But
exactly.
Gratitude. But so I can see the argument for not calling out Lou Williams in the media because Lou Williams is who he is. You can call Lou Williams out after every single game for his defense. He's not going to get better on defense. Mm-hmm. It's just that's not we know who Lou Williams is at this point.
Right.
But so I get it from that perspective, but at the same time, what are they learning by having that guy play over them when he's making the exact same mistakes?
Exactly.
They're learning that the coach isn't gonna treat everyone the same way.
Exactly.
And so I think that is kind of a dangerous precedent.
Right. If I'm Jordan Clarkson, if I'm DeAngelo Russell.
Well, if you're Jordan Clarkson, you're in at the end.
Good point. And I'm dating a pretty good-looking Sports Illustrated model.
No comment.
But if I'm DeAngelo Russell and I'm saying I can't get minutes late in the games, I just literally it's not going to happen. The logic tonight was that he didn't start, so he doesn't finish. Which Byron.
I mean, Bass didn't start either, but
veteranness.
Yeah.
Gratitude.
Yeah.
But
he showed more gratitude tonight.
If I'm one of those young guys and Lou Williams is literally game planned against, the lack of defense he's playing right now is being game planned for. And the coach is not saying anything about that. Julius Randle was getting called out for half the season for not playing hard because of defensive intensity. And we're seeing this with Lou, and yeah, if I'm one of those kids, I'm saying, man, Byron, how long? 1, 2, 3 Cancun.
Yeah, I'm just picturing Greg Popovich watching film on the Lakers with like a nice glass of wine, whatever, before the game, and just like having that same wine come out of his nose when he sees Lou Williams get back cut like 70 times on the tape. And he's like, oh, okay, well, I know what we're running in the fourth quarter.
That laugh just cost me $50 because the quality of wine just shot through my nose. So
now I'd like to take a quick second to talk about our sponsor, Greg Popovich's wine label.
Yes. Pop a bottle of Popovich's wine. All right. So as far as the rest of the game goes, honestly, it was a typical Lakers game. Another game this season where the Lakers were down double digits at some point. They fought back late, and it was close late, which means Kobe has to take every single shot.
I think he took 7 shots in the final 6 minutes, I saw someone say.
You go, Kobe. You shoot your shot.
Get them buckets.
Shoot your shot, Kobe. So in that respect, it was a typical Lakers game. They wind up losing. So those pro tankers out there, get that to root about. That's good to know. Patty Mills hit a couple shots late that put the game completely out of reach. It's crazy to me. Again, last couple points before we move on to larger topics. But it's crazy to me that the Spurs didn't play. They didn't have Kawhi Leonard tonight.
Their best player, I think, by any measure.
And I didn't even notice.
Yeah.
It took me a full quarter to notice that he wasn't out there. And that's insane to me. That they are running so efficiently. Their system and everything is running so efficiently that a top 10 player in the league, maybe even I would argue top 5 because of everything he brings to the table.
Yeah, I think you could make that argument. And I think I made that argument earlier this year.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's not out there. I don't even notice and nothing. Whereas if the Lakers were missing, or when the Lakers were trying to win, when they were actually a successful organization, if Kobe wasn't there for a game, the talk after the game was, well, Kobe wasn't there.
Yeah. It was first. It was like, I can't believe they started Adam Morrison to not mess up their rotations.
Yeah. But it's crazy to me that there's not even a mention. There had the Spurs lost or how the game went on tonight, there was no real mention of, the best player on that roster didn't play. And the larger point for me is I think what the Spurs are doing, what's really interesting, and I kind of went on a brief Twitter rant about this earlier this week, was this rest premise, that we are really focused on rest. And the guys who do get in there, when they are in there, they are better rested than the other players who are on the court against them.
Yeah.
Right. And now the players, everybody involved is pretty rested coming off of the All-Star break. Byron Scott is sporting the greatest tan that I think.
Oh, nice tan. I'm a little jealous. I need to go outside sometime.
Paddleboard tan, man.
Yeah.
He no time to think about DeAngelo Russell starting. He's too busy getting that tan. So I guess the question I have for you is, at what point does the rest of the league catch up and say, we need to get these guys rest more often so we can sit a top 5, top 10 player and not miss a beat at all, because the guys that are stepping in for him are just that much better rested and are
they're
that
ready.
Much better at
they're
the system.
ready.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
And so I think that there's something to be said for continuity there, which is something the Lakers certainly haven't had over the last couple of years. I think churning over like 10 spots on the roster, 12 spots every single year.
And then at the end of this year, we'll have another turnover coach probably.
And so I don't think that that's something that the entire league is going to do, because how many coaches have the job security to just do something like that, just sit a top 5 player just cause. Like there are a lot of coaches that don't.
Coming off of the All-Star break, there's no reason he should be sitting. There's no.
Hey, he played like 20 hard minutes in the All-Star game that his coach also coached.
He wasn't even a part of that classic like triple overtime slam dunk contest. Nothing like that. He was just sitting there for that, not smiling.
So, now, can we confirm he was in the building? He was probably just in his like Kawhi cryogenics chamber that he uses when he's not playing basketball.
Cryogenics chamber is what it's called.
I knew you were going to go there. You're like halfway through my sentence. But I think to get back to your point, I think if the whole league did start to do that, I think that you would see a lot more of I think that the NBA would be forced to reevaluate its schedule, because then at that point there's going to be a lot more fan, because right now there's already fan outcry when the Spurs sit like one of these guys are like, oh, should Pop be fined? Should he be allowed to do this and that? And so I think if every single team in the league was starting to do it, there would be an issue, and I think that they'd reevaluate the schedule. But I don't know that it's ever going to get to that point, even as smart as teams are getting, maybe in 20 years.
Well, what tells there was some talk that the Spurs are using advanced analytics when it comes to that rest, the rest theory. So that's good to see, which tells me anytime I hear analytics, I kind of think of it as shared information across the league, because it's not like one organization's analytics team is far and away better than any other analytics team in the league. Now, in the Lakers' case, their analytics team might be so far behind everybody that it's noteworthy, but I don't think anybody's analytics team is so far ahead of everybody that it's noteworthy. So I hope. I mean, you're seeing it, right? Like
I think there are tiers.
Yeah.
I think there are tiers. I think like the best teams as far as analytics are probably better, like significantly better than the worst teams as far as analytics. But I think that they are grouped more closely than I think a lot of the times that we're led to imagine.
That's probably.
I think a lot of the time it's perception informs reality.
Yep.
Like
Confirmation bias.
Yeah, exactly. Like if a team's playing really well, and they have an analytics department, then their analytics department must be spot on.
Yeah.
When maybe they didn't have
when
that
they're
much
bad.
to do with it.
They don't think about analytics.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense. All right, so we'll put a bow on this one. The Lakers wind up losing 113 to 119. Kobe goes 10 of 25 in 29 minutes. Julius Randle plays 31 minutes, gets double-double, 11 points, 15 rebounds on 5 of 10 shooting. Jordan Clarkson, after playing one of the better first quarters I think he's ever played in his life, finishes with 20 points. I don't know. I think he had all 20 in the first quarter. Or in the first half. Like, it felt like he had all the –
I don't remember him doing much at the end of the game. Yeah.
Right. And then, you go down the list. DeAngelo Russell, only 26 minutes, is still on the low end, 2 of 5 shooting. Really quiet night tonight for DeAngelo Russell. Don't say anything crazy in that post-game conference, though, DeAngelo. We don't need any of that going on.
I mean, should we have Jordan Clarkson sit up there during Byron Scott's press conferences at this point?
No more child or animal abuse jokes, Byron.
Like he's pretty much hit the trifecta of undesirable jokes to make for a head coach of a professional basketball team at this point.
But Mitch isn't allowed to talk about Byron. We can't have that. All right, so we're gonna move on. Again, Lakers wind up losing. Shocker. The other shocker for me came this year at the trade deadline when the Lakers wound up not making any moves, and I wrote a quite lengthy article. I think it was like 1,500 words.
Took me a while to edit.
it was on there forever, and I take issue with the Lakers not taking the assets they have and not making them into longer term assets that have a larger impact on the franchise moving forward,
contributing to like a good team in the future.
Right. Like and so you like you said, you read the article. And you had a couple counterpoints to it. First and foremost being the value that they have to get back in a trade regardless. That they don't want to set the precedent of we're just going to take anybody for anybody that we have on the roster.
Yeah, well, I think some of it's that, and then some of it is, like in the case of Lou Williams this year, the fact that they didn't deal him for a second-round pick just to essentially, for lack of a better term, Byron-proof the roster. I don't know that that's necessarily a loss. I think that if they could have gotten something of value for him, then that's like a good move to make. But I don't know that even as good as they've been at scouting, the average second-round pick is going to be more helpful than having Lou Williams under his contract. I think that at some point you might be able to either get more for him or he contributes to a team that's a little better next year or the year after, and he looks pretty good and helps the Lakers look like a more attractive destination for a free agent or something down the line, or he helps them succeed. I didn't agree with the premise of just trading him just to trade him. I think was an issue that I took with it.
And here's the thing: I never said make a trade to make a trade, right?
Yeah.
I think the quote. I'm a huge Harry Potter nerd. Everybody knows this about me.
Yep.
When you're talking about change for the sake of change, that's more harmful than not making a move at all, right?
Yeah.
The dude who was calling me a hashtag dumbass in my mentions, who has since since been blocked because he told somebody else to speak some logic into me, who I will not speak. But I've never said that we should just make a move for the sake of making a move, because that's how the Clippers wind up with Jeff Green for a future first rounder. You don't want to
future perennial all-star Jeff Green,
29 years old.
Yeah.
So I, in that respect, I completely agree that you don't want to make a move for the sake of making a move. And Lou Williams is a somewhat different situation, because you're talking about somebody who is under contract for the next 3 years.
At a pretty good rate. I'd argue he was
rate.
one of the bargains of the offseason.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the team's been terrible, so that sounds kind of ridiculous to say.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think he's been really productive. After a really rough start, he's been fine.
Now, that said, I trade Brandon Bass for a ham sandwich. Because that's a ham sandwich you're not going to get when he leaves via.
So that's a fair point. I think that Brandon Bass, I think you pretty much take what you can get from him at this point. Because really, is he coming back next year? And even if he wanted to, why would you want to bring him back next year?
Yeah,
I just don't.
He's in the way of Randall.
You can get a Brandon Bass if you need a veteran big to play behind. You have Nance and you have Randall. You don't need Bass back next year. So Bass, I agree with, and Black. Well, who?
That one guy.
Yeah.
That
guy that doesn't play for whatever reason. Doesn't fall on the floor enough. So, and then so going down the roster this year, Bass, 100% agree with you. Definitely should have tried to trade. But how realistic is it to criticize them for not trading him for anything? What if nobody was really offering anything? We don't know for a fact. We know that they were shopping him. We don't know that anybody really offered anything. Mm-hmm. Were there that many teams clamoring for him? That's the question that I would ask in the case of Bass.
Right. Well, that's a point that you make on the front end of any conversation.
Yeah.
Like when you're talking about a deadline with the Lakers, is that they never leak anything. So you don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Takes two teams to make a trade.
Now, I will say that the Lakers have set the precedent. So having seen the last couple trade deadlines come and go, and the trend has always been, or the talk around the league has always been, well, they overvalue their guys.
Yeah.
Right. And if I'm taking that point that's being made across the league and extending it to this offseason, and I'm saying with Brandon Bass, he has no value for the Lakers.
Yeah.
How can you overvalue somebody who, theoretically speaking, has zero value?
Well, but that's
what
I'm saying. Do we know that anybody was offering them anything? We don't. So that's why it's hard for me to just for that move, criticize them. So that's to me, it's defensible because we don't know that people were offering anything.
You're telling me somebody like, I don't know. Well, all right. So we'll go with we'll stick with the Clippers thing, right? Okay. Because they give up a first for Jeff Green. In no way, shape, or form am I saying that Brandon Bass was going to fetch a first rounder, right?
Yeah.
But could he fetch a conditional second rounder that may or may not convey? No, what I'm saying is that the Clippers could use him.
Yeah, well,
the Clippers could seriously.
But has he set a career high against Doc? Because
he played for Doc, I believe. He played for Doc on that.
Oh, on Boston.
For Boston
for a little bit.
He fits with So if you're and now there's the whole thing about whether or not the Clippers would ever deal
trade with the Lakers. So it's you have to factor all of this stuff in. So I don't know. For me,
he doesn't make 3-pointers. Memphis would want. So I just. For me, it's just
long twos for life.
They're more short twos when you look at that roster. But what I keep seeing with the Lakers, and this is a point that I made in the article, is that they have been really, really, really good in the draft.
Yep.
That's inarguable. That they have been really good in the draft as far as not only picking guys that they draft
since Bynum.
Oh, yeah.
I think the only miss in there, I can't remember if Crittenton was before or after Bynum. He was after Bynum. But that's really the only major miss in there, considering
Crittenton was a major piece in the Pau Gasol trade. He was the fetch in the Pau Gasol trade. It wasn't Kwame Brown. Memphis made that trade hoping that Crittenton would turn into something, not a murderer. So I think in terms of what the overall point that I make when it comes to the Lakers' deadline dealings or lack thereof is that they are very good at, when they have assets, making them, efficiently using them. And the case you can make with Boston is that over this time span, now Boston is, I think, third in the Eastern Conference right now.
I believe so.
So I can't quite say that they aren't doing a very good job at turning their assets or managing their assets when they're sitting
They
third
almost
in the
have too many at this point.
Well, the thing is,
they aren't going to be able to keep all their draft picks next year.
Kobe's flipping this off.
That's a nice press conference comment.
Russell's like, I broke my finger too. What's weird, Byron? What's going on? So, back to what I apologize, guys. That was but with what I'm seeing with the Lakers is they are very good at managing the assets they have, but they are terrible at creating assets moving forward. And last year, the point I kept on making was sell high on Young. Get whatever you can possibly get on Young because
Young, there was no high last year.
Or the heading into the year, or even.
Oh, you mean like heading into this season, or like at the beginning of this season? He was playing well.
Then and before
last year he never played well for Byron.
Right.
Like since Byron has taken over, Nick Young, other than like the first month or two of the season this year, has been an actively harmful player.
Right. What I mean is heading into when he was playing well for D'Antoni at the end of the year, or even at the deadline at the deadline with D'Antoni, is what I mean.
Okay.
Is that he wasn't under contract the following year. Flip whatever you can get for him. And not only did they not flip whatever they could get for him, they turn around and sign him for 4 years and whatever, and hashtag stay swag.
And then part of that too was they re-signed him because of like fan clamoring using billboards and such, but they declined Kent Bazemore's qualifying offer. Mm-hmm. They didn't submit one to him, and he went to the Hawks.
Right.
So it's like when they actually did make an in-season trade for a player that could have been a helpful part going forward, they said so long to him. They actually did what you wanted to do with Steve Blake.
Yeah.
But
then they didn't. That's what.
Then they didn't retain.
I said like, oh, we were so close, Lakers.
Almost did it.
But
to be fair though, at the time, people thought that Nick Young was a nice story. He was the LA kid that came home, had the best season of his career. I think that there were a lot of people that were really in on Nick Young, and I think that year at the deadline, I think that was part of why they didn't trade him, because he was basically a walking billboard for the Lakers that year. He just
turned into an actual billboard.
Anytime they put a microphone in front of him, he was telling how happy he was to be there. Compared to this year, when he's telling Mark Medina that I wouldn't mind if I got traded to a good team. And it's like, oh really? I want to contribute to a playoff team. So do I.
I want to contribute to a playoff podcast, but here I am. I'm just kidding, Silver Spoon.
Shots fired, man. Thanks.
Great.
I mean, we tried to trade you.
No. Couldn't get a ham sandwich.
You're taking half.
It's a $6 footlong for Subway. Is that what it is right now?
I would have taken just one of the 6-inch ones, and I'm a vegetarian. That's how much I want you gone.
You could have taken Jared.
Oh, dude.
No, I'm just kidding. The other guy, and we'll put again, we'll wrap up this little conversation here, but you go on down the line. Last year it was also Ed Davis, who was not under contract beyond next year. They said we want to bring him back at the end of the year, and part of this is some playing the result. Yeah. That I always have that at my disposal because the odds are kind of in my favor when we're having this conversation.
Well, because hindsight's 20/20.
Right. But I just think even if you bring Ed Davis back, what is he on this team? What is he on next year's team? What is he on this team?
On this team, it wouldn't have made a lot of sense because after they traded for Hibbert, which I have to remind everyone, we all thought was a good move at the time.
I wrote about it.
Yeah, I mean, we were all high on the Hibbert move. But I think that the process behind it was good. I think that they took a shot on a guy that there was no way to know that the majority of his effectiveness on defense was due to having good perimeter defenders in front of him. It was thought that he cleaned up a lot for them, and he did, but it was also because they were so disciplined about getting guys to go directly to him. But when he's trapped in space because of horrible defenders in front of him, he's not as helpful. And so Ed Davis wouldn't have done a lot for this team because he would have been on the bench. It would have been like a weird allocation of resources to re-sign Ed Davis for what Portland paid him.
And so in that respect, and again, like you said, hindsight's 2020. I have money quarterbacking. I'm doing all that good stuff. But at the time when they had Ed Davis, I said there's a very good chance he's not going to be back next year. He's not under contract next year. You get what you can possibly get for him. Yeah. Right. And that's what I'm saying.
Last year at the deadline, they definitely should have traded. Davis was a guy that they should have tried to see what they could get for, and pretty much taken whatever they. Lynn, I disagree. I don't think that Lynn was tradable because of his contract. The Lakers got a first-round pick for taking his contract. I don't know, and he also his value didn't exactly go up last year playing.
What I'll say though is Portland this year benefits by having cap space and being able to make one of those trades happen.
The Lakers did it with Lynn.
Right. Well, what I'm saying, though, is that like with acquiring Lynn. Yeah. Right? But when you have Lynn and you have teams that want to, trade a young player for a superstar, but there just aren't that many big contracts out there, right? Yeah. But if you have a big contract in your possession, you can say, hey, we'll help facilitate this trade. Just throw us back a bone. Yeah. And that's what I put together some hypothetical trade that wound up with the Lakers getting KJ McDaniels. I'm a huge KJ McDaniels fan. And that's what you're thinking, is that you get an asset back by having that big contract that otherwise is going to go unused at the end of the year. Roy Hibbert.
But we just saw expirings don't have a lot of value. The Lakers couldn't. The Lakers would have had to attach something, I think, to move Roy Hibbert. David Lee.
I'm not talking about getting an asset for Roy Hibbert. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you get an asset for Roy Hibbert's contract when another team needs that big deal to make a larger deal happen.
But at this deadline, I don't think that we saw that being necessary. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like Boston was trying to throw David Lee to anybody that would take him in a big move, and it just wasn't happening for them, and they cut him today.
Well, they also, I mean, they were trying to throw David Lee in there, but they didn't want to throw their Brooklyn pick in there, right? Yeah. So that's part of the.
I can't really blame them.
Yeah, and
it's going to be a good pick.
Howard.
Yeah.
Simmons, shut up.
Yeah.
So all right. So I think at the end of the day, for me is, and I'll let you finish on this point if you have anything to add, but. For me, at some point, the Lakers need to find a way to turn their current assets into longer-term assets moving forward. If they're going to sign guys on these one-year loans or on these one-year contracts, that you hope Brandon Bass. I think Eric Pincus reported it throughout the first part of this year that they were playing Brandon Bass at the 5 to show teams, hey, this guy has value. Yeah. So if you're going to flaunt this guy's potential value and then not turn him over at the trade deadline for literally anything. I don't care if you have to sell incredibly low on Brandon Bass. It's not like you're selling low on DeAngelo Russell, who has potential value later. You're selling low on Brandon Bass, who has zero value later. Yeah. Right? So if you can get a second-round pick, and even if it's a 55 through 60th pick, no, I'm not saying that's going to turn into a player for sure. But that's an asset you didn't have before, that you definitely aren't going to have when Brandon Bass isn't there anymore. Yeah. Right. And that's the point that I hope to make. And now
I agree with you about actually I'll let you finish.
The piece that I wrote, it's up at lasportsreport.com.
Yep. Nice plug.
I guess I should know that a little bit. Being the managing editor, I guess, whatever. But the last point that I made there when it comes to this trade deadline was that the Lakers don't want to be seen as perennial sellers in the NBA's cellar, right? So you can't, if that's sellers. Yeah, exactly. It's weird how that worked out, right? So
the proximity is making me make bad jokes. It's contagious.
He's never going to do another podcast here, guys. But the point I finished with the post, and make sure you check it out again at lasportsreport.com. It's a pretty SEO friendly title, so you should be able to find it out there somewhere. Is that we're starting, I think, to get a taste of the Jeanie Buss run Lakers. And this is purely speculative on my part. Completely speculative. This is hot take avenue. Anybody who likes hot takes, Rant Sports, I hope you're listening right now.
I do not endorse his hot take, whatever's about to come out of his mouth.
But what we're starting to see is the public perception of a team who sells every year at the trade deadline is not one that you want to have moving forward with a fan base that you're asking to spend significant dollars to go watch play, right? When you're watching a Lakers game, when you decide I'm gonna buy Lakers tickets, you're probably saving, or you're probably saving up a good half a check's worth of money to do so, right? So if you're going to ask your fan base to save all that money and all that stuff, you don't also want to say at every single trade deadline for the last 3 years, we're going to be sellers.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to get rid of assets to hopefully build for the future, right? From a business perspective, it makes sense not to do that.
Yeah.
From a business perspective, you could argue it makes sense not to fire Byron Scott because he has a bunch of friends all over the NBA, right?
Got Magic Johnson promoting the exciting Lakers basketball they're playing tonight.
Yeah. So yeah, and in that respect, you have James working for Time Warner. You have, like I said, there are Showtime Lakers, if not actual players, but the people who help put that team together throughout the NBA. So you don't want to set that precedent and rub those guys wrong, right? So from a business standpoint, that could factor into it. And so the larger point that I was making is that with Jeanie, you hear a lot of times, you hear a lot of fans say, we just bring Jeanie in, let her bring Phil in, and let this happen, and this, and that, and the other. What I worry about there is that Jeanie is great with business. I don't think that's arguable.
Yeah. She's
really good at what she does. I think she's complete garbage.
Lakers are the second most valuable organization in the NBA. So
yeah. And so what she does from the business perspective, I think she's great. I think, and when she talks about the business perspective, it makes me want to buy into that aspect of the Lakers. When she starts talking about the actual basketball operations and who she wants to hire and with the decision making, and she tries to explain that. And so
at least she'd bring in Phil, who tried to sign Greg Monroe to play over Porzingis this offseason and really wanted Okafor to fall to him.
Exactly. When we talk about Jeanie Buss Messiah, we need to pump the brakes a little bit because we've started to see that a little bit when it comes to keeping Byron around, when it comes to not trading guys to build for the future. I think when it comes to Kobe's farewell tour, when the entire organization comes out and says that this season has more to do with Kobe's farewell tour than the development of their core, who do you think that's coming from?
We had 27 games left today, and the coach was saying with no hope of the playoffs, 11 wins, and the coach was saying that winning games is coming ahead of the development of the young core.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
It makes zero, and that's all business stuff. So if you're talking
I get it, and I wrote today when I was writing about his comments, I think that, like, to some degree, there is a witch hunt for Byron quotes, and I think that I don't know what else he's supposed to say. He's the coach of the team. He has to say that he's trying to win. Brett Brown says that they're trying to win every game, and I'm sure he is, but they just don't have the roster to do so. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I get why you wouldn't want people who paid their hard-earned money for season tickets to be like, oh, well, they don't even care about winning. They're just throwing young guys out here to make mistakes that'll maybe benefit us in 2 years. Mm-hmm. So I get why he isn't able to really admit that, but I don't get why it really needs to be said.
Right. And that's you talk about the Lakers maybe should put a muzzle on their head coach at some point, but that's.
Or like I said, at least have Jordan Clarkson sit up there and go, Coach, don't say anything crazy. The Jordan Clarkson, future PR guy, if he ever wants it. Like, I don't know why he'd ever do that, but
spoken from a former PR guy, Jordan Clarkson, just get in that industry. After you're done playing, you'd be great. All right, so that went on for way longer than we thought it would.
Yeah.
We'll just finish really quickly with the Kobe Duncan stuff because it's the last time they played against each other. We will ever see those two on the court at the same time. And I thought you had the stat of the night. I don't know where you got it from.
Well, it's courtesy of Basketball Breakdown, and they've actually played 82 games exactly against each other after tonight, which I thought was pretty
poignant.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so you see Kobe and Duncan on the court at the same time, and a lot of the
Basketball Reference, not Breakdown. I don't know why I'm saying Breakdown.
Well, as long as it's not Hoops Critic, we're good. They wind up, anytime Kobe and Duncan got on the same court was always fun for me. Not necessarily from a head-to-head standpoint. They never played against each other.
Yeah.
They were completely different positions. But what's more interesting to me is that their career arcs followed such different paths. And Duncan right now is getting a lot of praise because the Spurs, during the entirety of his career, have been title contenders, right? And we are now going on 3 years of Kobe's career where they are not title contenders at the end of it. And then even in his prime, nobody thought that team he actually won MVP with was going to win a title either.
Yeah.
Right? So you have these peaks and valleys with Kobe, and you have this steady flow with Duncan.
And then I think the other thing that's interesting to compare them is people talk about, Duncan's the better teammate. He took less money to win, this and that. Why is Kobe getting this farewell tour when he was so greedy and he took all this money and the giant contract and all that? And it's like the reason that people care about Kobe more than Duncan is because Kobe has, number one, he played in a way bigger market. Mm-hmm. And number two, his game's a little bit more entertaining, I'd say. Number three, and I think probably most importantly, he let people in. He showed personality. He did interviews. He let the fans in. Tim Duncan never showed any desire to do that. And I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong, but you can't cry foul or don't shed tears for Tim Duncan not getting the farewell tour he doesn't want because he's never wanted that attention.
Right. And that's the thing is that Duncan is boring.
Yeah, I mean, people connected with Kobe more than they connected with Duncan. That's all it is. It's not like this we need to moralize Duncan was the bigger winner and he was,
But he's not.
Yeah,
he's not.
He's not. But because he's competitive in the twilight of his career, that's the way it's being framed because we're a lot of the time slaves to the moment. It's
also possible that Duncan played for a better organization, a better run organization. I think.
How dare you?
I'm sorry. I'm never gonna get credentialed. It's never gonna happen. This isn't Harrison Fagan.
Have you seen the trophies in the facility?
I was at Dodger Stadium today, and they have plenty of trophies there. And for the most of my life, they have not been a very well-run organization. So I was, when you're talking about the Kobe Duncan thing, the thing that I found the most interesting, beyond Kobe letting people in, beyond Duncan's consistency, all of that, whatever. What I find the most interesting is that both guys did it their way. And the imprint that they leave on this league just goes to show that you can win in multiple ways.
Yeah.
Right? And I think when we talk about, we're in this either-or culture right now, which is incredibly frustrating.
Whatever way's currently winning right now, that's the way everybody else should try and
Yeah, everybody just needs to find a Draymond Green.
Yeah. There are a lot of them out there, as you can see around the NBA. In NBA history, there have been tons of Draymond Greens.
Larry Nance be like, "What up, yo?" But with when you have Tim Duncan, when you have Kobe, they go to show that there is no right way to do things. There's no surefire
different
way.
Different players are good in different ways.
It's weird.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And for me, what I've always found way cooler is the amount of respect that those two guys have for each other.
Yeah,
because they know that the other guy did things their way.
Was a legit Hall of Famer, and there's some respect there.
They're the two greatest players. I think they're
of their generation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
I believe Kobe came in the year before Duncan.
Yes.
Yeah. 96. Yeah, I think Duncan was 97, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I you have the two greatest players of their generation, and they have, in my opinion, furthered the game of basketball. Shout out to Michael Jordan for saying game of basketball. And at the end of the day, all you can hope for if you're playing this game, or for us, even in our industry, if what we're doing right now furthers the way basketball is covered 10 years down the line, then we did our job, right?
I don't think I'm doing that.
and you look at the imprint that Simmons had on sports media versus Levitard's imprint on sports media versus Coward's imprint on sports media. Those three guys did things immensely different. But when you're looking at the way sports are covered, they all had their imprint.
Yeah, they were all successful.
Yeah, and
for better or for worse.
Especially with the last guy.
Yeah.
With Kobe, with Duncan, you have two guys. It's just they made basketball better, and that's what you would hope for. So it's a bittersweet moment as you see those guys walk off the court for the last time tonight. Unfortunately, Kobe and Duncan didn't get to have that moment at midcourt. Kobe had that fake broken finger.
They got to laugh about his his dislocated finger that he popped back in.
Well,
Nice
Mary Beatty sharpens up the machete. So you had that going on. Lakers wind up losing. This podcast went way longer. Thank you for everybody. We didn't lose too many people tonight. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. This was really cool. Again, having you in person. We're going to go out and enjoy a bonfire right now.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, just don't say anything crazy.
Way too late for that. All right, everybody. So make sure you catch this on, if you're not listening right now, this will be on iTunes tomorrow. We will get back to the normally, the way the schedule should have played out throughout this year. I want to get more Lakers Lounge podcasts going. I'm going to have Dave Schilling back on the podcast again in the coming days. And if you didn't catch last podcast, he was tremendous. He will be on again, and I almost guarantee he will be tremendous again. Harrison, you are always good when you come on here. Thank you, everybody, for the comments and the retweets and the subscribes and all that. We will talk to you guys again in the near future.
All right, we're gonna go fist fight.